I'm Mike Quincy, and this is the video review of the 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid. Subaru fans know that the company redesigned this best-selling model for 2025, and as with all Forester CRs tested, they absolutely knocked it out of the park. The small SUV shines with easy access, comfortable seating, great visibility, and a smooth ride. So our hopes were high when we heard that Subaru was augmenting its splendid small SUV with a hybrid powertrain that punches up both fuel economy and power. So here's what we bought. We took delivery of a premium version for testing. The final assembly point of the Forester Hybrid is in Japan. It comes nicely equipped with a big sunroof, heated front seats, a power rear liftgate, and a wireless phone charger. With a few minor options, as well as the $1,420 destination fee, the total came to $37,956. Keep in mind that depending on the trim line, the hybrid version can cost about $1,700 to $3,000 more than the regular model. So really, this is about the hybrid powertrain, so why don't we go for a ride? Always good to be back on the track here at Consumer Reports test facility. And when you think about the main selling point, the main reason why we've got a Subaru Forester Hybrid, it's all about the powertrain. The Forester Hybrid features a 2.5-liter flat-bore engine teamed with the 1.1 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. It uses an electric continuously variable transmission, and power is routed to all four wheels. The total system output is 194 horsepower, marking a 14 horsepower advantage over the non-hybrid version. So right off the bat, we're finding that you don't have to rev the engine so much, which really cuts down on the CVT noise. A lot of CVTs can produce a fair amount of engine noise. You get that rubber banding effect that we're not fond of. So the little added torque, little extra horsepower definitely improves the drivability. Certainly the hybrid is more pleasant than the regular Forester. It is quieter. It just doesn't have as much engine or drivetrain noise as the regular model. It also feels a touch quicker. And being that it's a hybrid, if you use a very light throttle, say anything under about 20 miles an hour, you can kind of scoot along on all electric power, which is really handy in city driving. So as the added weight can improve a hybrid's ride, maybe reduce noise level, kind of make the handling feel a bit more hunkered down, and keeping in mind you're only getting a 14 horsepower boost compared to the regular model, the Forester Hybrid weighs about 300 pounds more. So the extra weight kind of adds things, and in some ways it might take away a little bit too. Subaru says the Forester Hybrid will be EPA rated for 35 miles per gallon combined. That figure is right in line with its primary competitors, and it marks a notable improvement over the last Forester that we tested. So more good news about the hybrid is it gets the same 16.6 gallon fuel tank as the regular Forester, and that makes for a pretty robust cruising range. Subaru is estimating about 581 miles on a full tank of fuel. If you're a road trip guy like I am, and you want to just drive for hours on end, having that much cruising range with a full tank is magical. So to survive or even enjoy a really long drive, you don't want a noisy cabin. There's certainly less engine noise, although we did notice a decent amount of wind noise, but this is kind of a fairly upright SUV, and maybe if the drivetrain is quieter, making the cabin overall a lot quieter, you're going to notice more noises compared to the regular Forester. But all in all, the Forester Hybrid has yet another aspect that makes it better than the regular Forester, which is still a really good small SUV. The hybrid model's extra weight and different and perhaps more robust suspension tuning certainly improve the ride. It's really absorbent even on the bumpiest sections of our track. There really isn't much that gets the ride out of sorts with this Forester Hybrid. Handling, again, very good for the class. Despite the soft ride, it still feels fairly agile. Probably don't want to call it sporty. It's more confident than sporty, and not in the same league as the sportiest small SUV, which would be the Mazda CX-5. And when it comes to driving off-road, the Forester has always had some mild off-road chops, mostly due to its generous ground clearance. Going with the hybrid version means you don't sacrifice any ground clearance. It's the same as the regular model. Now, honestly, no one is really going to be taking any Forester, whether it's the regular or the hybrid version, very, very far off-road. But if you do some little stuff, dirt roads and whatnot, you'll be fine. So there are a lot of aspects of a vehicle's safety. Visibility is a huge part of safety, and the Forester has it in spades. There's a big windshield, there's a pretty low dash, the A-pillars are pretty slim, there's good glass area all around. This really is the benchmark of the class. Additionally, the Forester Hybrid has all the safety goodies that we like to see. Bonus, the hybrid model also gets standard blind spot warning and rear cross traffic warning, which is optional on the regular Forester. So we're back inside, and let's talk about the styling. This really looks like any other new Forester on the road today. To know that it's an actual hybrid, you have to spot these little badges that are scattered about, but really it looks like any other Forester. As you can imagine, many of the same virtues that we found in the regular Forester carry over here, including just about the easiest access of any vehicle we've ever tested. Just looking at the seat height is just about perfectly placed. You basically just slide over and down into the seat. The door itself is pretty wide, pretty tall. The sill isn't very wide either, so it's really easy to step into this. And the rear access is also easy, and there's a ton of room back there. So when you get situated in the driver's seat, you immediately can see how much we love the elevated driving position. You really do sit up high, but it's not like taller drivers are in trouble because there's still a lot of headroom even though you're sitting up high. I'm about 5'10", plenty of headspace for me. Also, Subaru was very thoughtful in their design of the center console here. There's a little cutout for the driver's right knee. It's also slightly padded. We always like to see that in our test cars. So fit and finish for the hybrid model is just about identical to the regular Forester. We really like the stitching on the steering wheel. There's also nice stitching here on the door panel. The wrap around the steering wheel is actually imitation leather, but there's still an abundance of hard plastic, especially on the lower dash area here. But give Subaru some credit. They break up the monotony of plastic here in the dashboard by having some like extra different patterned materials, some different colors, some muted chrome trim here and there. So overall, this is a serviceable fit and finish. It's not a fancy interior, but it looks and feels pretty durable. So there's not a ton of storage options here in the Forester Hybrid. The bin between the front seats is pretty deep, but it's kind of narrow. It doesn't really hold all that much. Nice to see a rubber-lined phone charger. And there's also a little open bin behind the cup holders. Perhaps you could toss the keys back there, but there isn't a lot of places to put your day-to-day stuff. So most of us here at Consumer Reports pretty pleased with the Forester Hybrid seats. Some of the taller drivers complained that the cushion was a little bit short, but the side bolstering, both on the cushion and the seat backs here, really hold you in place well. The fabric itself is a little scratchy, and I have to say that I drove this car for about a 9.5-hour road trip. I thought the seats held up quite well. You do get a little lumbar adjustment here. That's a nice feature, especially at this price point, and really comes in handy during long drives. So moving on to the controls, it's nice that the Forester Hybrid has the same simple, straightforward approach as the regular Forester. Highlights include a really easy to use gear selector, easy analog rotary tune knob and volume knob. With this much simplicity, you don't need an owner's manual to figure out how to operate it. Most hybrid models feature an 11.6-inch vertical center screen for infotainment and climate controls, but the hybrid exclusive is that they get a configurable 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. However, the center screen's portrait orientation puts the climate controls way down on the bottom. And this is one of the few complaints we really have about the controls. Imagine you're driving and you want to make some kind of adjustment. It's certainly easier if all you're doing is leaving it on auto and hitting the up or down buttons here, which are hard buttons. But if you want to move the orientation of the air around, you have to hit this button, which brings up the climate control menu, and then you make your selections that way. And I think it's really important to highlight this because you're often adjusting your climate system for one thing or another. And to have that menu to be so small and so down low on the center screen is not ideal. And with this new Forester Hybrid, It's given us an opportunity to kind of evaluate Subaru's latest built-in navigation system. However, I gotta tell you right up front, it's pretty slow, it feels really dated, and if you're a big fan of, say, using voice commands, we're also finding that this technology almost feels 10 years out of date, because if you say something casual, like you hit the button,
please say a command,
and you say, find me a coffee shop, and it's thinking, and now it asks you to say, well, nearby, nearest, in a city. Well, I am where I am right now, so I obviously want to find the nearest coffee shop, and you still have to jump through hoops to then pick one among this list. And it even gave me photocopy shop instead of coffee shop. So they're very specific about how they want you to say something. Again, this is old technology. Most modern systems use a more natural speech approach. Luckily, you can still use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay and bypass this system completely. The hybrid also gets Subaru's latest driver information screen. The graphics are pretty clear. It's pretty easy to see and navigate. There's this little toggle on the left side of the steering wheel where you can look at what's going on with the hybrid operation. You can see what's going on with Bluetooth, how many miles you've driven, what your fuel economy is looking like. However, you can change your view. The problem is that you actually have to press and hold the menu button on the left side of the steering wheel. This makes absolutely no sense because there's nothing intuitive about it. So you hold this button, that is bringing up the map. You hold it again, and that is bringing up your basic gauges and ADAS stuff. You hold it again, and that's the full view of the gauges. The information itself is really good and useful, but getting there is one step that I just didn't anticipate. So just like with the regular Forester, the Forester Hybrid has a pretty awesome cargo space. The floor is flush, the opening is really wide, it's pretty tall inside. But perhaps the best news is that the hybrid version doesn't give up any cargo space. That's not always the case. Oftentimes, when you have a regular version and a hybrid version of the same car, car makers have to load up the battery or the hybrid hardware somewhere, and you often get smaller cargo area. And here is actually where they put a lot of this hybrid hardware. If you pick up the cargo floor and you look under here, that's where the battery pack is. However, the bad news is the Forester Hybrid does not get a spare tire, not even a temporary spare, because the space where you put that is where the batteries are. But if you look under this little box down here, this little ledge thing, that's where the sealant kit is, just in case you get a flat tire. The tire sealant kit is designed so you can sort of pump up your ailing tire that gives you enough mileage to get you to a service station so you can get it fixed or replaced. The Forester Hybrid continues a revealing trend in Consumer Reports testing when we look at both the hybrid and the regular version of the same car. The cargo area stays the same. The ground clearance stays the same. There are more standard safety features, not to mention the fuel economy. When most people think about hybrid, that's the first thing they think about. To see all the results of our testing, as well as other competing small SUVs, check out consumerreports.org.